We are all welcome back from a very, very long weekend. I hope you decided to rest this weekend and you are ready for this week's lessons. We started week 4 and this is our 10th lesson for math. I realized that we left one thing on fractions, so I decided to pick it up before we continue to our next topic. So we are doing our last part of fractions. By the end of today's lesson, you remember everything you have learned so far on fractions, and then you'll be able to find 3/4 of a number. When we say 3/4 of a number, what it means and how to find it. And then there's something we call word problems. Word problems. They are questions that come by in a story form, and then you would find out the problem and then you solve it correctly. So we have 3 things to handle today. I am very confident that you know that fractions is a part of a whole. When you say fraction, it's a part of a whole. Sometimes it can be 1 part, sometimes it can be 2, it can even be 3 parts, 9 parts out of a whole 10. So fractions is a part of a whole. We also mentioned that half is a fraction, and we can get half by sharing whatever we have into 2 equal groups and then picking 1 part of it. So we have picked half of the whole that we picked. We've also learned that we can work out fractions through 2 strategies. We can work out fractions through 2 strategies. One of this is using our 2 times table, and the other strategy is grouping, and it's still valid. That is how I expect you to work out your fraction. So let's recap again. We said 1/4 means that you should divide whatever you have into 4 equal parts and then choose 1 part of it. 1/4 means share into 4 equal parts and then you choose 1 part of it. So we agreed that we would use our 4 times table to help us get 1/4 easily. So earlier on, we talked about word problems. Word problems. Word problems are basically mathematical problems that are put in sentence form. So they don't come like number 2 plus number 2 is equal to. No, they'll put it in a story form or in a sentence form. For instance, this question says you have 12 apples and you gave mom half of them. How many apples will she have? You have 12 apples and you gave mom half of them. How many apples will she have? We can solve this using our 2 times table, right? Good. Clap for yourself. For me alone. So we're using our 2 times table. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12. So 2 times 6 is 12. So half of 12 is 6. So if I have 12 apples and I gave half of them to mom, mom is supposed to have 6 apples. So with the word problem, it can be rewritten as what is half of 12. So we extract the problem from the story, and then we get it very simple and work with. So what is half of 12? And now we have established that half of 12 is 6. Excellent. Jesse, question number 2. Question number 2. Jesse brought 14 pieces of fruit, variety of fruits, to the aviary. He said, I will eat half in school and take half home. How many is he supposed to eat at the aviary? How many is he supposed to eat at the aviary? So simply put, 1/2 of 14, and we know it's 7. I know by this time you can just do your halves and your quarters just off head because of practice. Well done. Question number 3. Let's try a hand on this question too. Mom counted the grapes in the fridge. She said, I can count 5. Who has eaten half? How many grapes did Mom have initially? Or how many grapes were in the fridge all together? So how many will give me half as 5? How many will give me half as 5? What would I have to get 5? So when I use my 2 times table, I know when I do 2 times 5, I'll get 10. So half of 10 is 5. Or when I decide to double 5, Mom says she had double of that number. So I double the 5 and I get 10. Or I add 2 5s because half is shared into 2 equal parts. So if I want to have my whole, I'll add the 2 parts. Now that I'm confident we can do 1/4 of a number, let's move on to doing 3/4. I remember we mentioned that 3/4 is sharing into 4 equal parts and then picking 3 out of it. So at this time, when we share into 4 equal parts, we don't pick 1, we're going to pick 3. And that is what we call 3/4, represented by 3/4. So it means that when we share it into 4 equal parts, that is the down part one, we pick the number on top. So we are going to pick 3 out of the 4 equal parts, put all of them together, and that will represent 1/3. We remember when we cut our shape into, when we folded our shapes into 4 equal parts and we cut one part of it off. We had 1/4, and then the rest is what we call 3/4. Okay, so the concept of 3/4 is that you pick one, when you share it into 4 equal parts, you pick one part out of it, and the rest is what we call 3/4. So let's practice some questions. Let's practice some questions. So what is 1/4 of 16? You just have 4 times table. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. And 4 times 4 is 16. So what is of 1/4 of 16? The answer is 4. let's work on this question. Let's try and practice this question. If you are asked, what is 3/4 of 8? What is 3/4 of 8? Now remember, we use two strategies to work out quarters. We either use the 4 times table, or we use our grouping into 4 equal groups. One of the very interesting strategies to use is to use grouping for our fractions. So we said we're looking for 3/4 of 8. It means whatever we have to share it into 4 equal groups. So we have our 4 shapes here: square, circle, triangle, and rectangle. So we have our 4 shapes, and then we put our smileys into these 4 shapes, one after the other, till we exhaust our 8. So when we are done with that, because it is 3/4, we are going to pick any 3 and put them together, add them all together. And that is what we mean by 3/4 of 8. So from our grouping strategy, we notice that when we share 8 into 4 equal parts, one group or each group will get 2. So if we are supposed to find 3/4 of the number, it means that we have to take the 2 in each group. So add the 2 from one group, add another 2 from another group, and add another 2 from the third group, meaning that 2 times 3 is 6, or 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. So 3/4 of 8 is 6. Let us do further practice by calculating 3/4 of 16. What is 3/4 of 16? Let's still use our grouping strategy. So we're going to use grouping strategy to find 3/4 of 16. We're going to use our grouping strategy. So we have our groups of 4, and each group has 4 smileys in it. Each group has 4 smileys in it. Okay? So it therefore means that when we have 4 groups, if you want to do 3/4 of 4, it means you have to take 3 of the 4 groups, put all together, and we get 12. So if you are doing 3/4 of 16, it means 12. Or you add 4 in one group plus another 4 in another group, another plus another 4 in the last group. Let us practice our last question for the day, which is, what is 1/3 of 24? Sorry, what is 3/4 of 24? Okay, so it means that we're going to use one strategy. Say our 4 times table. table. Let us use our 4 times table. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 6 is 24. So 1/4 of 24 is 6. Since 1/4 of 24 is 6, and we want 3/4, we are picking 3 of the 6. So 6 plus 6 plus 6. So we add 6 to 6, we get 12, and add 6 to 12, we get 18. Therefore, 3/4 of 24 is 18. We can go on and on and on and on with 3/4 of a number. Very interesting. But remember, if you rush, you will crash. So go a step at a time, a step at a time, and you would be fine. There's some assessment in the portfolio. Kindly take your time and do it for me. Do everything you find in your portfolio. And then we'll meet tomorrow, God willing, for math. Bye.